And Bill, you can report that there was.
There was no reportable actions from closed session.
So now, Matthew, you can please officially close adjourn the.
Okay,
special
now,
meeting.
yes, the closed session is now adjourned, and we are reconvening to open session. And we will start with roll call.
No, so we're reconvening to open session for the regular meeting.
Right,
Okay,
7:30.
President Matthew Clark,
I'm here.
Vice President Eric Sukumel. Eric,
Sorry, here.
that's right. Director Barbara Dye,
Here.
Director Nancy Marsh,
Here.
and Director David Seaton is absent. General Manager Chuck Duffy is here, as well as our legal counsel, Bill Parkin, and I'm Delia Comito, the Assistant Manager. And I also have Nora here today. I wanted to introduce our new Administrative Assistant, Nora Mann.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Nora.
Very
Nora.
nice to meet you all. Hi.
Just so you know, she lives in
Pleasure.
Pacifica, so she's not a district resident, but she is local, so.
Good.
And
Welcome
she's working,
aboard.
Coastal
Welcome
Local. Thank you.
aboard. Someday
Thank
we'll
you.
all get to see you in person.
yes.
Hopefully soon. Yes. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
And I'm just going to tell you, Nora, now you don't have to stay on the meeting the whole time. Okay, we want to keep you for a few more weeks. So.
Although
we-
typically they're really gripping.
This one may be different, but yeah.
Not terribly.
All right.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
and one other thing I just want to mention, if you don't mind, Nora, she is bilingual, and I think that's great because we have
Yes.
never had anyone here that was bilingual. So
That is
Yeah, that's
excellent.
excellent.
I speak
Excelente.
Spanish and English. Yes.
Great.
So we'll get better translations for our parks communications.
yeah, there you go.
So far, only missed phone calls.
Okay.
our number-
We're,
I was just going to say our number
Go
is
ahead.
close to some help, some kind of, helpline that helps people. And there's a lot of Spanish speaking people that call us looking for this other company and they get us instead. So I just thought I'd explain it. Sorry. Go ahead.
all right. We will now go to public participation. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on any items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to the action agenda. Item 1, consideration of variance for APN 048-031-200 on Magellan Avenue in Miramar.
Okay, who wants to take this? Start with Delia or Bill?
I would say Bill.
Okay.
I'll jump right in here. So before you is a variance that's taken a bit of time to get to you. One of the reasons is we were having, and with Delia's help, we were finally able to get some information from the county, but we kept getting there's a coastal development permit for this lot, and we'd get the coastal development permit for the residents. And for any of you who know, there's a difference between a coastal development permit for a home and a coastal development permit for a lot. And one of the issues that had come up was this lot was separately conveyed in 2008, which is well after the Coastal Act. So a certificate of compliance was issued for the lot in 2008. Candidly, I don't think it qualified for a certificate of compliance, but the county issued it in any event. And so then there was also a coastal development permit issued for the certificate of compliance in 2017. So while technically the lot was never legally created, there is a coastal development permit for the lot. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and so that's related to your findings 1 and 2 that are listed on the in the set of findings that's in your packet. And then the second issue deals with it's limited to a 2-bedroom home given the substandard nature of the property. And if you look at the plans, it's billed as a 2-bedroom home. However, there's a third room called a guest/study with a closet. And then there's a storage/utility room on the upper floor that has a balcony. So it's up to your board. It's listed as a 2-bedroom home, but it, you know, I leave it to the board to make findings as to whether or not it qualifies as a 2-bedroom home, but just wanted you to be aware of those facts. And then the last thing deals with the amount of impervious surfaces in finding number 5, or I'm sorry, finding number 5, where the amount of impervious surfaces does exceed what is allowable. But again, a coastal development permit has been issued for the residents. So while it exceeds the non-structure impervious surface amount, coastal development permit has been issued for it. So this is a little more of a difficult variance than the normal variances that you see. And that's why it took so long to get to you as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And Eric, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
I do.
Nancy, did you have your hand up?
I have my virtual hand up. I think Nancy has her real hand up. I get, before we go any further, I was just curious. It doesn't look like it, but do we have anyone in the meeting associated with this permit variance? Julia, do you know?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Nancy, I didn't see your real hand up. So
That's okay. I just noted that on the application itself, which follows the findings, it lists the number of bedrooms as 3.
Right.
And I don't see that they have submitted a difference. It's something to say that it's 2. And the other note, I put in a note to Chuck, the room that I'm sitting in is called the guest study on our map, and it actually has French doors to the dining room, so it doesn't look like a bedroom. But when it was assessed, because it has a closet, as you can see, the assessor said it counts as a bedroom. And any room with a closet counts as a bedroom. So that guest study, I noted, did have a closet and a full bath just outside its door. So it looks like a bedroom to me.
Right. And
application, it's listed as a bedroom.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, Nancy, and I apologize I didn't note that in my report, but yes, there seems to be a discrepancy between the plans as representing a 2-bedroom versus the actual application lists 3 as the number of bedrooms.
I will concur with what Nancy just said, because the 2-story home and everything downstairs is not bedrooms because there are no closets. And that's the county's definition for sure. And upstairs are all bedrooms. So, and Bill, did you say the CDP was issued in 2008?
No, the lot. So the lot was an old paper lot, right? And
Right.
If you recall about these antiquated subdivisions, in order to actually create the lot, you had to deed them out separately, right? And this wasn't deeded separately until 2008. It should not have been deeded separately in 2008. And then they went in for a certificate of compliance and a coastal development permit for the lot. And the coastal development permit for the lot was granted in 2017.
And so that was based on the plans that we have?
No. So again, don't conflate the
Okay.
CDP for the coastal development permit for the house versus the coastal development permit for the creation of the lot.
Well, right. So, but the county has issued a CDP for the house.
And a separate one for the lot in 2017.
Right. But they issued that based on 3 bedrooms.
No. Again, don't mix. There's a coastal development permit for the house, which is separate from the coastal development permit for the lot. And so the lot wasn't based on any bedrooms at all, just whether or not the lot is legal, that the coastal development permit issued for the house, the plans indicate it's a 2-bedroom house. So that was what they based that coastal development permit on.
Barbara's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I
Barbara.
noticed I was kind of playing with it because my hand is kind of floating with the elegant turns kind of
It looks webbed.
over my arm. But anyway, so if we were to approve this, are we, don't we have to maintain consistency? And we have a regulation that says that in a non-conforming lot, there can only be 2 bedrooms. Don't we have an obligation to maintain that consistency?
No, I'm sorry, Bill.
No, go ahead, Nancy. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Well,
and let me maybe give some back. I got inquiries from a couple board members on this, and generally, if I had an obvious set of plans that clearly said bedroom 1, bedroom 2, bedroom 3, I wouldn't even have put this on the agenda for your board's consideration. They had the one room that was called guest study. When I look at this stuff in the default, I want to give your board discretion. I don't want to take policy decisions down to a staff level. It's your board's discretion. So that's why this is on now. But, certainly I'll tell you from a sewer standpoint, we've done this in various districts I've worked for over the years. They look at a set of plans, much like Nancy was talking about, and we go, hey, is there a room and is there a closet in there? And if so, it's a bedroom, no matter what they call it. And, it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So.
And if we approve that, then we are, like saying our rule doesn't matter.
Before I joined the board, I came to the meeting where there was a house that's being built, maybe built at some point next door to mine, where you'll remember the one where it was grandfathered because she got her building permit before the, no more than 2 bedrooms if it's less than 60% of a conforming lot. But before that the grandfathering was made, she did have, I think, her plans redrawn so that the 3rd bedroom was drawn without a closet and called a study. And maybe that's all that this person will do, but it should be a 2-bedroom plan, not a 3-bedroom plan.
I'm fine with that.
And as you noted, the application does indicate 3 bedrooms. So.
Yeah.
We should be consistent with our rules, right? Unless we want to reconsider our rules.
Well, it's Bill and I discussed this beforehand, obviously, and that to me, the findings black and white to some extent. You can, it's a 2-bedroom limitation, so your board's well within your discretion of not being able to make all the findings required to grant a variance.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of following our rules and being consistent.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion stating that your board has considered the variance and the findings presented and cannot make all the findings required to grant said variance?
Yes, my question with that motion is in the findings. The findings say it's a 2-bedroom house, therefore this finding can be made. So I think we need to modify that finding.
That's a very good point, Nancy, and I was going to suggest that maybe the motion include modifying the findings as to findings number 5 in impervious surfaces and in the finding 6 on the number of bedrooms. I think that pretty much sums up sort of where you're going, and the coastal development permit issue, while the lot clearly is illegal, the coastal development permit has been issued for it and went unchallenged. So there's little we could do about that, but I think those 2 findings can be amended.
It gives them a roadmap for if they want to come back for approval, what they would need to do.
Right.
So Bill, would you like to suggest a more clarifying motion?
Sure, I can do that. I would suggest that a motion be made to, bear with me a second here. I'm just going to pull the findings, the exact findings back up again. A motion be made to deny the variance because the board cannot make the finding number 5 in relation to, bear with me here, finding number 5 with respect to the amount of lot coverage, the impervious surface coverage, and finding number 6 related to the number of bedrooms and that it exceeds 2 bedrooms. The project exceeds 2 bedrooms.
Okay, would someone like to make that motion?
Please. We have
think Nancy's
Nancy.
trying to make-
Nancy makes the motion. Do we need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Bill, on number 5, is there any likelihood that the county is going to, well, let me first ask, they gave a coastal development permit for the residents, even though it's outside their limit for impermeable surface. You think, I think I recall the county changing some permits or asking that the plans be changed to bring that item into conformance. You think it'll happen here? Or the fact that they already gave a CDP for the residents means that's it, they're done?
Well, your denial of the variance may have the property owner go back to amend the CDP to reduce the amount of impervious surfaces. I don't know, but if they resolve the bedroom issue and it comes back before you, I think, the board will, can again make the finding or not. And I'm not answering your question, am I, Matthew?
Well, yeah, that's predicting the future is difficult.
Yeah.
But would the county have issued the CDP even though it didn't meet their impervious surfaces ordinance? Are they independent of each other?
Well, they obviously glossed over it, right? It happens all the time. Obviously, the CDP.
So it should be included in it, but they just glossed over it. Okay.
Right, exactly. I mean, there shouldn't have been a CDP for the lot either, but they.
But that's a whole nother issue, right? Yeah.
But we can only address what we can address, and I'm very supportive of this, so.
Okay, so Matthew, you've got.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Members of the public?
All right, let's call the roll call vote, please.
Oh, sorry. Director Sukamel,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
and Director Dye.
Aye.
And Director Seaton's absent. Motion carries to deny the variance because the board can't make finding number 5 in relation to lot coverage. Can't make finding number 6 in relation to the exceedance of the bedroom limitation. Motion carries 4-1. Seaton absent. 401. Okay.
Okay, and then that decision will be communicated to the applicant right away, I hope.
Yes, it will.
Yes. All right, action item number 2, consideration of annual audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
Okay, Bill, you've been doing such a good job. You want to take this too?
Isn't this your expertise, Chuck?
So we have here in front of you our annual comprehensive financial report and audit. And as we have for most every year, it is a nice, clean report on the district's finances. We are in good, sound fiscal condition. We've got sufficient reserves to cover what we need to do, and our two big uses of reserves are our sewer line pipeline replacement program, which we're deep in, and John Rayner's in the process of bidding, and then our share of the $2 to $2.5 million SAM CIP that is part of their budget every year. So as I said, the first part of this is, as I'm reading through the packet, is the Granada Community Services District, the required communication that is from Fetchter and Company. They point out what their role is in the audit as auditors. On that first page, they make some general recommendations. Because we are a small shop, as they report each year, we get some issues with getting enough, put it in the layman's term, eyeballs on each part of the district financial thing. So we've got a good system where, Delia prints the checks. We've got an outside accounting agency who does our books. Our checks have 2 signatures. So a staff person or 2 board members sign each check. So it's a 2-signature check. So we've got a bunch of these things in place. As far as that goes, we're looking good on that. The auditor has not pointed out any significant deficiencies in our financial procedures, nor any material weaknesses in our financial procedures, which is always good, obviously. So, again, we're in sound fiscal condition. Following that, the auditor's report comes the actual annual financial report. And that's the meat of the audit. And the first 3 or 4 pages of that audit is the management's discussion and analysis, which started out years ago as kind of a plain spoken, hey, here's a summary of the audit. Since most people can't read an audit, it's kind of morphed into a baby audit. So I'm not sure it does what it was originally supposed to do, but it's a required part of the financial statements. And then we have the actual financial statements with the accompanying notes behind it. So does anyone have any questions or comments on the audit?
No, I think it's good to see such a nice clean audit.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I have one process question. I know, at least on the private side, often you switch auditors every 3 to 5 years. Do we do that on the public side? Are we going to be looking for a new auditor in the next few years, or is that?
Yeah, that's actually regulated by government code, and it's, Barbara corrected me today. It's you have to change auditors every 6 years, or if you use the same auditor, you have to change the partner in the firm that certifies the audit. And we've gone from Craig Fetchter to Sandy's, I think her name is Sup. Sup, yeah, Sup. So we're following those rules.
Great.
How many years have we been with Fector?
I think 9. It's been 9 years.
Has that been that long? Yeah.
So
Change.
after 10 years, we change, or we go back to the other partner again?
Good question. I don't know. I've never gone that long. The law hasn't been in place that long, Matthew. It came about because of some financial fiasco. I forget which one, but that's when they put in place this kind of stuff.
Maybe this
Sounds like it's time for us to make a change. Not that there's anything wrong with what we're doing now, but it does make sense to make a change when it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can
So
look
should
at
we
that.
do an RFP? I mean,
Yeah, we would do an RFP for that.
because we need someone in place by June, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
End of June. Yeah.
So is this something we're agreed that you need to do, or?
Well, that's up to you. Yeah, that's your board's discretion. We generally don't do formal RFPs. We just generally send out a letter saying the district's soliciting proposals to produce, an audit for the district for the next 3 years. We usually do it in 3-year increments.
Well, I would defer to you on the process, but I think it's time to make a change if we've been with these people for, what did you say, 9 years, 10 years?
9 years, yeah.
9 years. I think it's time to make a change.
Is the rest of the board in agreement?
Sure, I am. I mean, we
Yeah.
could do another year, but why not?
I mean, the law is 6 years. I just was dealing with that with Sam today, having a conversation about that this morning with Sam's attorney. The law says every 6 years you either have to change the partner in the firm you're working with or go to a new firm. So it seems like there is some grandfathering in if it was before this law started, but even so, it sounds like it's pretty clear that after 9 years, we should make a change.
How long have we been working with this partner?
Said,
Just for, I think, 3 years now, or Sandy's been doing it.
Yeah.
oh, so we've been only 3 years with the same partner.
Yeah, I wanted to
Yes.
clarify that. We are operating in accordance with the law. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm fine with whatever you got, whatever staff thinks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we could still go out, but I want to make it clear we are operating in accordance with the law, yeah.
We don't have to go out for another 3 years if we keep that same partner for 3 more years.
Right.
I mean, I would say, since I would not rock the boat. We have 3 more years. I would just.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
fine. I'm
okay.
sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying we've been with the same person for 9 years, and I was
Same firm, 9 years, different operating partners for 6 and 3, yeah.
okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay, good.
Anything else?
Any other questions or comments?
I read it all. It's quite a learning experience.
Yeah, how can anyone write like that?
Well, you know, they make lawyers look good.
Ah,
I can read lawyers.
yeah, their disclaimers are a thing of wonder. I'll say that.
Yeah, that does get me. It's like, really, you're not really responsible for much, are you?
We audited you, but we really didn't. We checked your internal controls, but we're not responsible for
Yeah,
it.
but we're not going to
But-
comment.
You know, I've used, obviously, in my career, 8, 9, 10, 12 auditors, and they're all, they have the same disclaimers, so.
The only thing that I was not aware of was the advance to Montana Sanitary District with the sense that it's unlikely to be repaid, and so we're, I guess, writing it off.
Oh, the Montera money? Yeah.
Yeah, when I came on board, Nancy, we carried that as an asset on the books. And then I read the agreement, which says they have to hit this certain flow limitation before they have to start paying it back. And we did that set aside at that time.
Unlikely to hit that flow.
That's a polite word for it, yeah.
Okay. It was a very good deal for them, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
I remember when I came on the board, I'm like, wait, what? They owe us $1 million? And we're just saying, oh, never mind. But now I understand it.
Well, Half Moon Bay fronted money too.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're not getting it.
no.
In fact, Barbara, I should mention that Sam is supposed to produce the loan amortization every year, which they stopped doing when Jeanette left. But they are supposed to keep track of that for us. The loan. Yeah. So I'm going to bring that up with George.
Yeah, can you fill me in on that?
Yeah, I'll send you the last one that we have. It'll show you the whole schedule.
Because we're going to talk about that on the SAM report.
Okay.
The audit.
Okay.
So we will need a motion to approve that.
I move approval of the annual audit of financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'm unmuted.
Any more discussion? Let's have the roll call, please.
Director Sukamel,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
and Director Dye.
Yes.
Motion to approve the audit passes 401. David Seaton absent.
Okay, item number 4, report on parks and recreation activities.
Pat is traveling without internet, so he asked me if I would do a quick brief, which will be quick. Because there was just a PAC meeting. The PAC at this meeting nominated their officers, so Pat was nominated as chair and approved, and Rick Barker nominated as co-chair and approved. So those are the new PAC officers. If you have a chance, it's a great recording to go look at, because Pat invited the community center heads, Mike Perez from Pacifica and Eddie Bealey from Half Moon Bay, to do a panel discussion, just general questions on what they've learned from running their facilities and what they might do differently, or what we should watch out for, what's most popular. It was really, really informative. They are both actually quite envious that we have the potential to have a community center building that is across the street from our park, because there's a lot of things that you can tie together with, having a class and then going, having a gardening class and going out in the park, or having a preschool, mommy and me, and then sending them out to play. Pacific has a playground, but no grass or park, and Half Moon Bay, of course, has the skate park, but no adjacent park. So they thought that ability to have those things so close to each other made both better. It was a good thing. One of the things that that actually got a lot of discussion in the meeting that I had not actually thought of was they both they have events in their recreation centers during the week. In Pacifica, it's a lot of preschool enrichment for preschoolers, not preschool itself, but like Mommy and Me and other kinds of classes for preschoolers and seniors. And they have, they don't have the senior center, I guess. They have senior lunches and then more adult classes in the evenings. Half Moon Bay has pickleball, bridge, dance classes, and they have several small rooms as well as their big room. But one of the things that's in great demand in both locations is just event space to rent. And they both have significant income streams from renting out their big rooms, which can offset some of your maintenance and other costs. It has a couple cautions that come with it. One is you need to have somebody there when your space is rented, to open and close it and make sure that they clean up when they're supposed to. If you are going to allow alcohol at an event, you need to have different insurance. And one of the things that makes an event space much more in demand is the ability to have some kind of kitchen, at minimum, a place to stage and store food, with the big refrigerators. But more desirable is to have a commercial kitchen that a caterer could use. Eddie said 8 out of 10 people they rent their space to in Half Moon Bay would like a kitchen. And while they've been closed, they have fully renovated their commercial catering kitchen. It's something that is not out of the question for the space that we're looking at. I just hadn't thought of the potential for income and income generation from that space. I did speak to somebody who used to do the recreation and parks and renting out space before Parks and Recreation in Half Moon Bay took it over. And she also thought our park proximity, first of all, our location for weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, quinceaneras, those are the sorts of events that tend to rent it out, was a great location. And the adjacency to the park made it even better, if you can imagine a wedding in the park and a reception in a big room. So just something to think about as, and when Barbara and I next meet with Rebecca, we'll have some more discussion on whether we would want to invest more than we might have otherwise in order to make a more desirable event rental space. But generally we learned that the space is a useful space. It can do all the things that the community centers can do. in Half Moon Bay and Pacifica, and could meet the kinds of demands they have for their centers, and has upsides with the adjacent park. The only other things that they discussed, we gave them an update on where we were with Rebecca, and what we're doing is due diligence. Should the fire department come on the market, and should we want to buy it? They updated the Quarry Park pump track. Actually, the news from Rick was that they are now including additional parking. I think he said 10 additional parking places in their planning and structure. And they will relay on to Public Works some of the requests for things like one side of street parking and stop signs. They had some discussion about whether they should plan for 2020 summer recreation. And just with the pandemic, it's difficult to plan anything. They had one interesting idea that they're going to pursue and probably come to the board with a proposal for. And that is to help kids get out of the house, is to maybe have one of Pat's potential students do a project where they develop an online scavenger hunt, but basically you take it from online out into the community to go looking for things. Maybe it has tie-ins with some of our history in the area, but get kids out in the neighborhoods and playing a game, basically, that can be designed to get them out from in front of their screens. So Pat was going to pursue whether he had a student who would be willing to do that as a project and scope it out for Pat. They did mention that they'd like to have, before we get back to recreation, someone to coordinate, do the contracting, vendor management, and so on. And it's hard to do rec without that, as we know. So that's the parks update.
Thank you, Nancy. I would comment, I agree. That was a great idea that Pat had to get those two parks directors online and going back and forth. And it was very informative and about a lot of different things. But one thing that struck me was I think the format was sort of, if there was one thing that you absolutely have to recommend, what would it be? And they both said storage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cannot have enough storage.
You cannot have enough storage, but it is good that Rebecca has agreed too, that there is space on that property that we could put in another building or expand the existing one. Yeah. I think it'd be good to have, a building that's just for storage. So
Yeah, extra tables, chairs, mats for kung fu classes, stuff for dancers. HMB did add a sound system because sometimes they have their big community meetings there.
yeah.
And so rather than having to have fixed desks set up with the microphones taped to them, they have a more updated sound system than we have at Harbor Village. So it gives them a little bit more flexibility with how they use the room.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you, Nancy.
Actually, no, I have
Michelle?
one thing that I will note. Can I, on the Harbor District agenda, Michelle called this to our attention. They are talking about negotiation for 504 Alhambra, which is our office building, our current office building. I don't know if it's for sale or they're renegotiating their lease, the Harbor District, with that building, which is where they are in now, as well as our offices. But and I put a request to the president of the board and was told that they had not yet discussed it. So it's interesting that it's not clear what that was about and whether the Harbor District is renegotiating their lease, considering leaving, considering of buying the whole building. I don't know. It's not clear. So,
Well,
As far as I know,
they did issue an RFP for their new building.
right.
So,
And you know what? Just let me say that there's some real synergy. The fact that they're talking about having meeting rooms and conference rooms in that building, would fit very well with the community center across the street. It would just free up more space in the community center for space that wasn't for community meetings and conference rooms. So I think I don't see that there's a conflict at all if they're going to build across the street. And I would
and it wasn't clear to me in their RFP that they're talking about rooms that are, you know, rooms for use by the general public versus rooms for use by the Harbor District.
right. So they have said that on an ongoing basis that they wanted to serve the community as well. So
Yeah.
that is something that they have repeatedly said.
But I agree, that wasn't clear in the RFP.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference with the community center is the need for real flexibility in how you use the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
That's different from a necessarily meeting room.
Bill, are they required to disclose in their closed session title whether they're negotiating for purchase or lease? Aren't they required to mention something about why it's on there? Terms of negotiation, something like that?
It would just say, it would identify the property, the address, and price in terms of payment. And I don't think it would necessarily specify whether it's a lease or a purchase.
Okay, all right, thanks.
As far as I know, this building is not currently up for sale.
Okay.
It's not.
It's probably their lease, but interesting that it wasn't clear.
Okay.
All right, I think that winds that up. Thank you again, Nancy. Item 4, report of sewer authority Midco side meetings. Barbara, how do you want to split this up?
Well, I was thinking maybe you take odor control and I'll talk about BOD and the capital improvement program.
Well, at least I don't have any news on odor control. I don't think there's been any movement in the meetings the last
Well, the only thing
at least 2
changed
meetings.
is that there's a more discussion on next door about people perceiving an odor problem there, which I have noticed in the last few days. And so I think this is, I guess, what I'm going to propose is that maybe our board requests that Sam give us a report on odor control processes for the Portola pump station, which we do not control. I mean, the things on next door today were about concerned about odor from the wet weather storage, which in talking to Chuck about this, evidently, if there are odors in the pump station, they could potentially make their way. I mean, it's not the use of the wet weather storage, it's the fact that the wet weather storage is connected to the pump station, right, Chuck?
Yeah, and I want to caveat that that's my recollection of the design, but I believe it's open atmosphere from the wet well and the Portola pump station to the pipes. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever, it seems as if there's kind of a small but regular concern in our community about odor, and maybe we should request as a board a report from Sam about odor control measures at the Portola pump station.
There was one time when I walked by there and they were out front working, and the person told me they were spreading cedar chips because of the odor. So they spread cedar chips out in the front, you know, where the odor permeates. So that seems to be their odor control measure, but it's not terribly effective.
Well, they're doing one other thing. Chuck, do you want to speak about it? It has a great name.
What, the odor control, the soil bed, or would, oh,
No.
I'll touch on the other one later, but yeah, the chips you're talking about, it's soil bed that theoretically has a pipe underneath it. The odor percolates up through the ground and the microbes in the soil eat the odor. So we can debate the efficacy of that or not. Barbara just told me today that I'd spoken to Sam, I don't know what, 3 months ago, and we had been talking about odor control, which is a problem, obviously. And I told him we use a product called persnickety. So quite a unique name. We use it. We have a 10,000 foot force main in our Rancho Santa Fe district, which, as you can imagine, if you don't have enough stuff going through it, it sits in there for 3 days and turns septic. So the IPS doesn't have quite that problem. So it turns out Sam is using persnickety in that Portola pump station.
They
Now,
just started using it.
well, and generally what that helps is the downstream part of the system. So when it gets to the plant, because we put it in our pump station to deal with odors emanating up at our plant. So I don't know if they're also using it at the Montera pump station, because that's really where you need it, because that's where your odor causing problems are occurring. So, but I can send an email to Kishin saying, hey, what are your odor, what are you doing for the odor issue at Portola? Are you adding persnickety to Portola and Montera? Basically, what are you doing?
I think that would be good because I know
Yeah.
Matthew's been raising this issue for a while.
Yeah, please do that, Chuck. And so from what you just said, the persnickety is only affecting the outflow at Portola, right? The pump.
Yeah, I think that's why we use it. Yeah.
Why is there a pipe that's open enough to let out odor on the input side?
Which input side?
Well, the side that's coming from the waste, the water storage, excess waste
Well-
storage part of the IPS that goes into the Portola pump station, right?
Right.
And that's where the smell is coming from, where that flows into the pump station, correct?
Yeah, so we've got a gravity pipe going into the wet well in the Portola pump station. But those overflow tanks on the Burnham strip, as I understand it, and the design is they work by gravity. So basically when that Portola pump station wet well gets too high, it automatically overflows into those tanks. And obviously there's got to be air there. And that's why I say it's open to, there's no gate there to stop odors migrating into that. Now, again, it's not my system, it's Sam's system, and they may have changed things, but that's how I remember it being designed.
But why, I believe that wood chip odor control has been there since before the initial wet weather storage was built.
Yeah, we've got one at our Whispering Palms treatment plant. I was just talking to a couple engineers coincidentally about this yesterday, and they were bemoaning odor control things, and they were, moaning on about carbon scrubbers and things like that. And I said, well, then what do you think about odor control beds? And they laughed about just like I did. So, if Portola, as I've said to them at many meetings and probably this last meeting, if Portola has an odor problem, I think we need to resolve it in one way or the other. And we don't need a giant
So
study.
let's get some information about what's being done and what could be done.
Yeah.
And ask for that from Sam. Yes? Everybody okay with that?
I am.
Sure.
All right, well then let's move on to a couple other SAM issues. One is you all know about the BOD issue. Evidently in January, there were 2 more episodes of high BOD they have identified from Princeton. At least that's what I was told. It looks like it's coming from Princeton. In fact, one day I was driving over there and in front of the Half Moon Bay, the landing, there was a truck there that said something like, testing, and I jumped out and it was Tony there, and I got some pictures of the monitor that they were putting down into the sewer line there, which I would be happy to share. So the question is, if it's happening in Princeton, what's being done about it? Is someone meeting? I have asked whether someone is meeting with the various distilleries and breweries, because by all accounts, the most likely source of the problem is distilleries or breweries putting their, effluent or whatever it is into the system. To talk to them and find out what potentially is going on there, and I'm not sure what's being done. And so my question essentially to Chuck, I guess, is this is a SAM problem because the problem happens at the SAM plant, but it's happening through our pipes in Princeton. And so what can we do, or what should we be doing about this, which is a serious problem that results in SAM putting effluent into the ocean, which is not like pollution or anything. It's just got the wrong.
It's
Low
got
oxygen.
higher oxygen demand
Yeah.
than
Yes.
we're
So
supposed
it's
to
not
put
like
out.
we're putting really evil stuff in there, but it
Right.
is stuff that doesn't meet the standards for what should go into the ocean. So if it is coming from Princeton, how do we factor into this, and what should we as GCSD be doing about it?
Well, let me clarify a couple comments there.
Okay, good, because
it
sorry
is,
if I
it
got
is,
something wrong.
it is a SAM problem, but it's an us problem. It's a GCSD problem. And obviously we work in conjunction with them.
Right.
You know, we have requirements within the JPA that we can't send stuff down to SAM that, you know, it causes them to exceed their limit. Now, I'm also going to, so that's kind of point number one. We're both addressing the issue in conjunction because that's what we're supposed to do cooperatively. The second part is, you know, let's not just say because there's some sections of high BOD possibly coming down from Princeton that is quote unquote our fault.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying you did. I'm saying for the record that there are processes at the treatment plant. They can simply open up another couple tanks, aeration basins to deal with that. We haven't had a good statistical analysis done by SAM, or if they have indeed done one, we haven't seen it. And as I've said before, there's two parameters to this kind of thing. You can measure a pipeline and discover you have high BOD. And let's say the BOD is 2,000 instead of the normal 300. Well, if it's only 5,000 gallons a day, that's not enough to spike the plant. It won't even move at 1 or 2, parts per million of BOD. So the analysis has to look at the flow rate plus the BOD. I also don't want to demonize the breweries here.
No.
I didn't say you did either.
Okay.
I'm speaking on my own now.
Okay.
I'm not responding to your stuff. I don't want to demonize the breweries because they've been there for a while, and this
Right.
problem is only recent. And so what you're looking for in this kind of stuff is changes in someone's process, whether it be, generally it is restaurants or breweries, or they've got fishery stuff there that I don't even know what's down there. So, we're looking.
There's a bunch of fertilizer warehouses too.
Right. So they've got all kinds of stuff that could be going down places it shouldn't. And that's what, so, I was talking to Barbara earlier, and I'd spoken with Delia about this last week, while we're buttoning up the agenda, that I want to get John Rayner, our district engineer, on this to coordinate with Sam. So if they're going to do some kind of analysis on what's happening at the plant and, potential high BOD levels, they figure it out and look everywhere. And what you would do with this as part of a program, it's similar to trying to find I&I. You would start at your treatment plant.
Say what I&I is.
Sorry, inflow and infiltration. So the stuff that leaks into the pipes from the surface when it rains and from groundwater when it rises up. So you would look at this and you'd start from your treatment plant, and your treatment plant's got 3 main pipes coming into it, 2 from Half Moon Bay, 1 from the IPS. And then you'd start going out into sub-basins, figure out doing this kind of testing. And you'd locate a sub-basin where there's high BOD, and then you narrow it down, that kind of thing. That's how the study should be done. I don't know how Sam's been doing it. I don't have any information from them. I got a spreadsheet from Kishin a couple months ago that showed some high BOD levels in various places here and in Half Moon Bay. So we're going to try and get more coordination from them on this issue. But, we all want to resolve the issue. If there is high BOD coming from our district, we want to resolve that, and, so they don't have to open up extra basins to the treatment plant.
Kishan's report says that they've located some areas that have high discharge BODs and they need to be addressed and they're following up. But he doesn't think that they have found a responsible party yet who could create that much of a difference.
Right. And again, the high BOD is one issue. It's the flow as well. I mean, the plant gets 1.3 million gallons a day. So I don't know what a brewery's putting out, but boy, it's got to put out something at a high level, do the math, right? In the parts per million.
Well, and since March, their businesses has not been as big as it was before March.
Right. So maybe they're dumping the batches of beer down the pipe. And if it's that extra hoppy stuff.
Well, they've, from
No,
the
no,
beginning,
no,
when
no,
this,
no, 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 no. They're not. They are not.
No, we didn't
That
really
was a
think they
joke,
were.
Michelle. That was
Okay,
a
good.
joke.
All right. Because I've interviewed all brewers and they're not doing that, but I appreciate the humor. Okay.
No,
fine.
they would drink it first.
Right. I'll be up there soon.
I'm sure they could give it away. And from the,
Actually,
when this
they
first
recycle
started,
it.
when this first started, and ever since, they, SAM people have always said it's coming from the IPS. They never mentioned looking at Half Moon Bayside at all. So I don't know if they did or not.
They did. They did. They did
And
some
then,
testing. But it takes 5 days to get the results somehow.
right, and I thought that they had SAM had purchased their own testing regime so that they get them back in 2 days, but apparently that hasn't happened. But
Well, it's happened, but evidently it's a different process that doesn't work as well. So they can get quicker results, but they're not as accurate. So is my understanding. So they're trying to do both.
And the other thing that they've said in general is that you can't do anything about it until you pinpoint the source. You can't just saying it comes from the Princeton area probably doesn't do us any good. We can't, there's nothing we can do about it from that. And so
Again, that's part of a program where they pinpoint that point and then they keep spidering out into more and more sub basins. Again, exactly what we do with an I&I.
right. Yeah. Right, and this has been taking quite some time. And then there's, Bill, is it appropriate to ask about or bring up the ordinances and this, the fact that it's said that MWSD and Half Moon Bay have specific numbers about BOD levels that are allowable while we don't?
Yeah, in talking to Chuck about it, and it seems like, I mean, our ordinances still would give us authority to do something if
Right.
if there's a pinpointed problem. So I'm not sure the number, Chuck knows the technical details better than I do, but I'm not sure the number is, the most important thing in the world. If there's a problem, there's a problem, and our code prohibits, and we can order a particular discharge to stop. So I think we're still covered, whether or not there needs to be some tightening. I've communicated with Jeremy that, that this seems to be the managers should get together and decide these issues rather than the lawyers initially. I mean, the lawyers can wordsmith whatever ordinance, but the technical question, I think, is really the manager's area. And our ordinance is not that dissimilar, candidly, than Montera's. So
It's not a legal question. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bill said, it's not a legal question. It's a technical question. Our ordinance gives us control over what people put into our sewer system broadly. And so, we want to go out. If someone's loading stuff into the pipeline that goes to the plant that causes higher BOD, we'll obviously go down and help out. But, this talk about ordinance codes and that goes down a path that's not helping this situation.
Barbara.
So what, if anything, should we as GCSD be doing at this point about this?
I'm going to put John Rayner in contact with Titian and request that they coordinate everything they do with the testing with us. And that doesn't mean we'll be running it. We just want to be in the loop on the information of here's the program they're using, here's the company they're using, here's their test results, all that kind of. What I don't want to do is wake up one day and have Half Moon Bay Sam send me an email saying, hey, we've pinpointed this source and you've got to do something about it because we don't have any factual basis behind that. So, and we're in no different position than any of the other agencies. So, if they pinpointed another agency, they'd want the same.
All right, so we have a resolution of and moving forward on this, which
Yeah.
is it is a problem for Sam and could cause regulatory issues.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the last thing
And-
about, oops, sorry.
I thought Michelle had her hand up and she took it down. So, okay.
I took it down. Thank you.
All right.
So the last thing I wanted to report on is the capital improvement program for SAM, which we are going to be looking at on Monday night, which is a $2.4 million program to do major repairs essentially and purchases to improve the facilities at SAM. I'm happy to say that for the first time in a while, we actually have the process in place, which I think is really important, which is that the SAM staff, SAM director, general manager consults with the agency managers before moving forward with major things like this. And this is something that it seems to be an ongoing issue. And now we're really actually trying to make it happen. So this $2.4 million capital improvement program was proposed. There were some meetings with oral feedback from the managers, and Chuck produced some good written feedback on questioning, I guess, 3 of the projects. And then Kishan, who's the general manager of SAM, responded in a way that I think responded to Chuck's concerns adequately on 2 of the projects, leaving one of the projects with still some questions. And just yesterday, Half Moon Bay, they're actually, they had a meeting of the city manager and the what is
Public Works Director. Public Works Director.
Director came up with comments. They wanted to know the response to one of Chuck's concerns, and then also the one concern that I'm speaking for you, Chuck, but you jump in a minute. Expressed a concern about. They also expressed a concern about, which is a $400,000 project to revise the basins, the treatment basins. No, something else. Basins.
The aeration basin.
Aeration basins. That's right. So here's the thing: we have to pay 30% of that, and if we on Monday night approve this, we end up paying 1/12 of the cost of this per month, irrespective of when these all projects, go out to bid and get a contractor and actually start happening. So it's an interesting question of how we as an agency play a role in making sure that this capital improvement program makes sense, and that and how the agencies relate to each other and how these things happen. And I'm really happy that I think this is one of the first times where the managers for at least 2 of the agencies have and Montera's manager said he was fine with all of it in just an email. But I think it's really good that we're finally at the point where there's going to be some actual feedback from the agency managers, because they're on the ground and they understand a lot of this stuff. And so that we can move forward with capital improvement programs that address the needs at the SAM facility, while also having some really serious review of those projects and whether they make sense. So I guess the question is, I don't know. That's kind of where we are, and we'll be looking at it Monday night. And one of the questions is this $400,000 aeration basin project. How do we, do we go ahead and approve it, even though 2 of the 3 agency managers have expressed reservations about it and want more information? And how do we feel about the fact that we're going to pay 30% of this?
20, flow-based,
No.
20%.
No, I think for capital improvement, don't we pay 30?
Nope. This all has been going into the infrastructure budget, which is part of the O&M budget.
So it's not a separate capital budget or fund.
It's
Okay,
called
so-
it's called the infrastructure budget. Yeah.
So we're still going to
I-
pay 20% of it then.
Yeah. To some extent, it doesn't matter what percentage we pay. It's the question is it a good project we should be doing? Yeah.
And is there a good process in place for how, this is our biggest expenditure, the money we pay to Sam, that our ratepayers pay us and that we pass on to Sam. Is the way that all of this is being handled a responsible way for these decisions to get made? Is there enough information? And Matthew, maybe you want to chime in a little here on this whole question as the other Sam rep.
Well, yeah, good question. Is there enough information available? I don't know, but the CIPs that come out of SAM I think are often confusing, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one who said that they want to do this $400,000 aeration basin, not a project. And this is a reaction to something that this was how I found out actually that there had been BOD violations again in January when I brought this up, because it seemed to me to be a reaction to a first time in 40 years incident that there's no good explanation for, or a good explanation of how bringing. I'm not clear on whether they're going to ultimately have 2 aeration basins that are working, 3, or even 4. Yeah, it's just.
Well, this project is to get basin 4 turning into an aeration basin, so that they would end up with actually 4 aeration, would triple the capacity.
Yeah,
but would all 4 be actually functional?
Yes, and let me, if I can, speak to the process that Sam's going through first. And so the confusion here is, generally in districts, you have an operations and maintenance budget, and you have what we call a CIP budget, capital improvement program. And there's not much thought given to them. Sam has, for the past 5 years, had the O&M budget, and a component of that budget is the infrastructure budget within that O&M budget. Now, I won't swear, Barbara, that we would pay flow-based or 30%, I can't remember, but it is part of that consolidated budget, if you will. So Barbara told me, hey, Sam's going to have this one-year CIP budget on their agenda in late February. I don't know if this meeting or the next. And I said, why is Sam approving a budget in February? Why aren't they doing it as part of the normal budget process, where they approve a budget, O&M, and all these projects, repair projects that need to be done? It's part of an O&M package that gets approved at the SAM board to be circulated to the member agencies, which is following the JPA. We go through our process of reviewing it, bring it all back to SAM. If we approve it, they approve final approval at SAM, and it's done. I don't know why Sam is approving a set-aside budget where we haven't done that in the past, and I don't think we need to now. So I guess that's point number one process Barbara talked about. Second part is to Matthew's point. I think the word we used was knee-jerk reaction to a recent problem. Sam has run the treatment plant for the past 15 years on one aeration basin number 3. When they had problems, they took number 3 offline and put 1 and 2 online. I don't know why they didn't run all 3. There might be a reason for it. It might be because they run in series, not parallel. Even that doesn't make much sense. There might be piping issues. I don't know. But at the end of the day, they've had this aeration basin number 4 sitting empty since the plant expansion was built in the mid-90s. And the reason it's empty is because they ran out of money. Obviously, Montero was shorted and whatnot. But at the end of the day, Sam does not need that aeration basin number 4 running. The plant is sized for 4 million gallons a day. We're flowing at 1.3 million gallons a day. It's run on one basin, anecdotally, for the past 15 years. I'm pretty sure it could run on 2 and 3 if we had a BOD loading. I'm not going to swear to that. But it sounds good and looks good from the outside looking in as you're a layman. Hey, there's an empty tank there and it's supposed to have pipes in it, and it does. We got to put pipes in there. Well, we don't. We've got enough redundancy, I think, with aeration basins 1 and 2 and 3. Half Moon Bay's letter to Sam said basically the same thing. It's a knee-jerk reaction. We don't think we need this. On top of all that, Sam just sent out an RFP for an outside consultant to look at the plant processes and the plant capacity. So I'd argue, even there, why not wait till that report comes back? I can't imagine that report will come back and said, boy, you need number 4. Because if we need number 4 flowing at 1.3 million gallons a day, what do we need when we go up to 3 million gallons a day? We need 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they don't exist. So.
And the other point is Half Moon Bay also pointed out that by converting it into an aeration basin, it precludes its use for recycled water, which is still something that people are potentially working toward.
Kind of, they had looked at to save money as a forebay for the use of recycled water. Just a whole nother issue. But anyway, I don't think Sam's following the correct process. I don't, as part of the budget process, I don't think this is a good project anyway. I certainly don't think it's a good project if you're going to do a study to figure out what you need at the plant. And Half Moon Bay feels the same way. Nancy, sorry.
Thank you for much more cogently explaining why I thought this was a knee-jerk reaction, and they weren't doing anything the normal way.
Right.
Yeah. I remember when I toured the plant, 1 and 2 were running because of the BOD issue, and there was a reason. He explained why they didn't have 3, and it seemed like it didn't blow as much air through or something. It didn't aerate as well.
The fine diffusers versus the coarse air diffusers.
Yes.
Yeah, they were using it, so it was different. But I'm wondering if the reason that they're putting it in now, because it does seem, doing a budget out of your budget cycle does seem like an odd thing. Is it because they didn't get the Amoresco project? Or are they doing this instead of the Amoresco project? But I agree, if they have a budget process annually, it should be in their budget process annually.
And the Amoresco project really has nothing. That was more the pumps and the motors that convey the liquids between the different tanks and whatnot.
And just for the record, Amoresco is gone because the Sam attorney determined that the proposed projects did not qualify in terms of the law, which allowed you to do single source energy saving projects. So
yeah,
Amoresco isn't quite gone.
I know.
Someone spoke too soon.
The Kishin put this was the January 25th meeting. He put an item on the agenda to pay off the $60,000 that he and the attorney agreed that Sam owed Amoresco for working up their proposal essentially. And so Sam's going to pay that. And then the Amoresco representatives came on and said they would like to study whether working on the aeration basins, that was sort of a general term, would come under the state law that would allow them to get reimbursed as an energy saving effort. And the SAM board okayed that, and Amoresco
Grudgingly, some of us
grudgingly,
very
indeed. And Amoresco is going to come back with a report of whether that the aeration basin work will fall under the state rubric that will allow it to be reimbursed. So I guess we're going to hear something about Amoresco on Monday, but I'm
I
not sure.
don't think so, actually. I think they found out it wasn't. And let me
I
just
don't-
say, when things are too good to be true, they probably are, because Amoresco came to the SAM board and said, we're going to study it. We're going to save you all this money. And it's not going to cost you anything. And it ended up costing us $60,000. So, and for which
And
Sam
And
got,
they made that same promise on the 25th. This isn't going to cost you anything.
yeah. So anyway,
I
so
would
I don't
speak
know
to
what.
Amoresco, but my head will blow off my shoulders, so I can't do it.
So it's really hard to say what this board should do. It's just, trying. I think I have to say Sam has made really good progress in the fact that this is the first time that I know of that actually the agency managers' opinions have really been taken into account. I mean, maybe not, definitely not sufficiently, but we're trying to get a process in place that really, takes advantage of the expertise of the agency managers in deciding what should be done, because it's the agencies who pay for all this stuff. So it's just
If you'd like my recommendation, and probably
Sure.
at this point, even if you wouldn't, I
I
can't
do.
stop.
I do. I want it.
I would probably say at the next SAM meeting that the CIP they're considering should be part of the general budget preparation package and circulation, #1, and that #2, you should direct SAM staff not to include the $400,000 aeration project in the CIP when they bundle it up for the budget, certainly because ourselves and Half Moon Bay has serious concerns about it. It's not a pressing need, and if it turns out to be one, they can put it in next year's budget.
Or they can do a budget adjustment.
Or they could put it in next year's budget, or never.
But they could. If it was determined it was critical, they could do a budget adjustment and
Yes,
we could.
they could.
So the other thing is about this way of doing things is when you approve $2.4 million worth of projects, are you actually approving those projects or not? Or are you just approving, setting aside the money? Because we pay that money. So what happens if only half of them get done in a given year?
We're supposed to get half the money back.
And we discussed this. I discussed this with Barbara. If they do a big project at SAM, I historically have held back the money until they bid the project, let the contract, and moved ahead with it. With this kind of stuff, theoretically, I'll liken it, Barbara, to an O&M budget. If they set an O&M budget of $5 million and they only spend 4.5, they're supposed to give us our share of that $500,000 back. And the same goes with the infrastructure budget. I'm going to stop calling it a CIP. The infrastructure budget, if they don't spend all the money we give them, they're supposed to give it back. And that's where we have to hold their feet to the fire. As I've said many years in the past, I don't have a problem giving SAM money, but if they don't spend it, we want to get it back. 15 years ago, it was a problem that we did exactly what you said. We gave them $1 million for CIP. They didn't spend it all and they just kept it. So we have to hold their feet to the fire at the end of the year. And not just us, all the member agencies. And all the member agencies, just so you know, have been historically in agreement on this.
And we have a general manager who I think is certainly more open to making this all work than the previous one was.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think Kishan is looking forward to all this as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted. And the last thing is the audit has come through, and once again, the audit says that Sam has been losing money every year for the last 12 years, which is totally not true. Anyway, because of the numbers.
Amoresco. Okay.
No, it's not. Anyway, all right. Well, that's enough for a Sam report.
Well, I'd like to mention one thing. I think, I hope everyone here knows that a couple meetings ago, Sam authorized what is starting as an ad hoc committee called the
Good.
Board Committee that consists of Director Lohman from MWSD, Director Ruddick from Half Moon Bay, and myself. And we're supposed to be researching paths and ideas toward what will Sam need to look like in 20 years. And so I'm going to say public input to whatever district you're in is definitely allowed and even encouraged. But along that line, there was at the February 8th meeting, there was a PowerPoint by an outfit called Case for Good about projects in Southern California where they built, or they didn't even build them, they bought packaged treatment plants that do up to tertiary treatment, and then they can recycle the water, which causes a vast revamp of your entire system because everybody's for recycled water, but it's not that simple. And there are contingencies that people don't think about, like during the winter when no one needs irrigation water, what do you do with your recycled water? How do you get rid of it? So anyway, that is just to say that Sam is now officially researching the idea of going to perhaps distributed smaller treatment plants spread around the service area, which is a big deal. And it's going to get to be a bigger deal, but who knows where this will go. Okay. Item 5. Oh, we're at the consent agenda. So item 5 is January 21st, 2021 special and regular meeting minutes. Item number 6, the February 2021 warrants. Item number 7, December 2020 financial statements. And item number 8, assessment district distribution, number 8-20/21, and that's paying back the assessments and loans that went to expand the sewer plant back in the 90s. And
Move approval.
pardon?
Move approval.
Oh, I have one question on item number 8, unfortunately, and I hope that Chuck or Delia can answer this. The item number 8, the assessment district distribution usually runs $2,700 or something like this, and this time it's $19,058 because there's a couple of what I think are, well, they're charges that we don't often see for, I think they're both legal, but one's called fiscal year accounting for 1920, and the other is bond services. Do those come up annually, or is this a one-timer because we're getting close to paying this off?
Yeah, the White Nelson Dale Evans is our regular accountant. They do our general account as well, but they've only do the assessment district once a year. So that's a one-time charge for the whole year. And the Weiss Law is our new bond counsel. And this is only the second bill, I believe, that he's sent to us, and he's done a considerable amount of work. So he only bills us when he's working for us, which isn't only on an as-needed basis. So
he's special bond counsel helping us wind down the assessment district broadly.
Thank you. Okay, I think we already had a motion on consent, right, Barbara?
Yep.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All right, no discussion. Roll call, please.
Director Sukumal,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Marsh,
Aye.
and Director Dye.
Yes.
Motion passes 401. Director Seaton absent.
Okay, item number 9, committee reports, seminars, conferences, or committee meetings. Do we have any? All right, information calendar, item number 10, attorney's report.
No report.
Thank you. Item number 11, general manager's report.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Item number 12, administrative staff report.
Nothing further.
Thank you. Item 13, why is there no engineers report this month? I mean, yeah, meeting.
We did not receive one. However, we did have a pre-bid meeting this morning, and there were 5 contractors present. They will be submitting bids, which will be read on March 4th at 2 p.m. for our capital improvement project sewer replacement program that John Rayner is handling. So the low bid, I believe, Chuck, that does come before the board for approval. We'll see it in March. So
Yeah. Good news.
Barbara.
What's happening with the Miramar relocation of the sewer line?
So the Meteor Creek crossing and the relocation down to Naples Beach pump station. So John has been coordinating with PG&E and the county because PG&E has lines over the bridge as well. And so he's just in coordination with them. The county is pacing some of their construction based on PG&E comments. John is also, we had some movement on the CDP with Half Moon Bay. So I had spoken to John Dowdy earlier. Bill had spoken to some of his cohorts at City Hall. So we've had some movement on that. We're hoping to get in front of their planning commission in March or April to get that approved. And John Rayner just sent an email today or yesterday kind of goosing the city like, hey, you said you'd process it, keep me in the loop. So John's all over it. So that's the good news.
In response to Michelle's question, I know we don't know what the white pipes across the bridge are. If we were not able to relocate the line into the right of way, would that small black line be sufficient, or would we need to have the big line that we have abandoned? Would we need to
No,
read a big line again?
we would not need that big of a line. That was for 50,000 gallons a day, plus or minus. We've got 5,000 gallons a day. John had been talking to them about a 6-inch sleeve for our line. John and I have also talked about a smaller project, not quite, I'll call it not quite as elegant, but maybe utilizing some in the cul-de-sac pump station, pump up to Ramona Way or whatever the next street is up there and whatnot, because we're still trying to get it off the bridge, obviously. So, and that could serve as a temporary thing, so we wouldn't have to put that over the line, because we are pretty sure we're going to get this relocated line. So, and to answer Michelle's point that we had traded emails on, I think those white pipes are conduit for PG&E lines. I don't think they're water mains. They don't look like water mains. They're not blue, so I'd be surprised if they were.
Okay, just because Michelle sent pictures and asked what the various lines were, we were able to identify.
But are those PG&E lines, are they live?
I would imagine so, because they're talking about putting the same lines on the new bridge. So
Holy moly. All right. Thank you.
Okay, but all we can speak to is our lines, which are that little.
I know. But
tiny
that's,
line.
yep.
And if the bidding goes through, our people could see construction in our streets in 2 or 3 months. Correct?
On the CIP,
On our CIP.
right.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, future agenda items. Does anyone want to add a 12th or 15th item to our list?
Nancy.
I do have
Nancy.
one, and Chuck, I'll send you the list of the questions that we both signed on early. I was asking about, but before we get to where we're discussing next year's budget, I'd like us to have a discussion about financial planning for the park and community center, kind of what the financing options are, what the impact is, and what kind of staff we need, you know, as soon as next year's budget, before we get to talking about it in the budget.
Yes, we should get that started. Okay, anything else?
Just one more thing. I see all these policy items on our future agenda. At some point, should we have a policy committee of the board to look at some of these policy issues and bring them back? I mean, it seems like all these various policies we should have been sitting there on future agenda items for a really long time, and maybe we should start doing something about it.
Well,
Chuck?
now that I have an assistant, my hope was to get caught up. There are actually some templates for a lot of these policies that we can get from the Special Districts Association. It's just a matter of, you know, doing it and having the time to do it. So hopefully with Nora here, I'll be able to get that caught up, and Bill can, you know, and Chuck can run through the policies. So
Well, I love policy. So you need
I'll
a
make,
board.
I was think about it every time I do this list. So believe me, it's on my mind. I'm hoping we can get to it.
So if you need a board subcommittee, or I know we don't have subcommittees, if you need a board committee to work on it, I don't know if there's someone else who's interested, but I think policy, setting up policies to make things work right is important.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I have a lot of samples already. I just need to look at them and insert our, you know, particular information and get them circulated. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the form that Delia just mentioned should be rather straightforward, but the review of the lateral policy, well, actually, I'd like to see that same process, some examination of other agencies' lateral policies, but that we should get that rolling as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's an important one. Yeah, I could probably take a few of these other ones off. I mean, adopt policy for Brown Act compliance
Comply.
should be removed. We should comply.
Yeah,
But if you're supposed to have
that's
a
the policy,
policy,
right? We should comply.
right? But if you're supposed to have a policy and there's boilerplate, we could pass it. You know, I think.
Yeah, those came from the grand jury recommendations. So
Yeah. So let's just do it.
They sound like things that are good templates for.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that winds it up. Thank you, folks. This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Night,
everybody.
I think it's so funny how my hands go away.
Yeah, you